Hey folks, Steve here with another World in Flames video. I guess this video will be our 5th video for Case Yellow. At some point, I'm probably going to switch to saying Case Red, just to kind of line in with the way it goes. But of course, as the Axis, before it can really become Case Red, we've got to do something about the channel here. We haven't quite had the sickle movement that historically happened. We haven't yet forced the BEF to leave the continent or pressure them hard enough. Maybe that'll change this turn. We're still, trying to work our way through France proper here. We are kind of reaching a point where we've got to decide, do we spend some time pushing north and push some guys, basically away up here and potentially to a place they can't retreat to and are thus eliminated? Or do we continue to sort of push in a down and south, southwest, I guess, direction to get into Paris, to Vichy, the country, to use Vichy as a verb there, I guess. So, kind of interesting. We're going to have to decide what to do there, and it really, I think, comes down to, would we rather have the German air face the British or the French? And that might be the interesting thing here. The Germans are currently working on rebuilding fighters because they've suffered a lot of fighter casualties to the French Air Force. So that is one element of the struggle here that should not be ignored. We really need air superiority. We need to be able to bring our air bombers, tactical bombers, in to support combats for them to really be the most successful. And that's going to really kind of drive what we want to do here. But first we got to do reinforcements, and so we're going to look to do that here. There are a number of reinforcements that we need to place, and actually quite a number indeed. So I'm trying to, yeah, okay, there we go. So let's let's get a place in these things. So we get some interesting guys here. We get some more ships. So we get the Fiji cruiser, we get the Bonaventure cruiser, and the illustrious aircraft carrier as the Commonwealth. That's some of what the Commonwealth gets. And probably what we want to do, I probably can't put them in Scapa Flow, or could I? I think Scapa Flow is considered part of the, that might not be part of the home nation. I guess it doesn't really matter. We'll place these guys in Edinburgh, in Scotland, so that we can send them out to sea or do whatever we want to do. Having lots of air power is nice. The Commonwealth gets an amphib unit that's going to go into the construction pool. And they also get really a weak bomber, truth be told, but we'll put it into London for now. We also get a infantry and a fighter, and so I think what we're going to have to do is, well, I guess we can put this guy right in London as well, so a really good fighter, Spitfire, comes in, and then we get an infantry, which we're going to put in Plymouth with our transports that are waiting. We could decide to send that infantry somewhere. You can just barely see it on camera here. The hex is over here getting a little congested, so sort of not keeping them all in one hex totally, but just messing about with that. So yeah, so those guys are going to be useful for something. I'm not sure exactly what, but we'll decide that as we go. And let's see, what else? The French are going to get some stuff, so the French get a fighter. So I think we'll place that. Yeah, all these places are getting kind of dangerous. We'll put it in Rouen. And then we get, see, here's a problem. I think this Moroccan unit that is coming back has to go into Morocco. And so I guess he's going to go into Rabat, And gosh, man, I just don't know what to think about that. Yeah, I'm reasonably confident he has to go into Morocco, since that's its home country. But then we get the French armor, which I think what we'll do is the closest city is still Rouen, so we'll put it into Rouen, and now Rouen is fully stacked there, and we'll probably do some unit swapping to get the armor. Up front, the Americans get a transport into the construction pool, so nothing too crazy there. The Soviets are going to get an armor, a mech, and let's see, some ships into the construction pool, which they'll probably never build, and then a bunch of infantry. So where we're going to set these guys for Soviet Union, well, they're no longer at war with Finland, so they got to be thinking about what they want to do for Bessarabia, so they're going to start setting up units for that. I think we'll do something like so. There we go. So we're just placing units sort of over around this area so they can get close to Bessarabia pretty quickly. Then we have, let's see, the Italians are going to get a ship into the construction pool, and then they're going to get their marine and their amphib into the construction pool. And so, let's see, the amphib's going to take some time yet. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to get this marine somewhere. I guess it makes sense just to throw them in Naples, because we're probably going to send it from Naples somewhere. Put the transports there, or at least, you know, until we get the amphib built. And then the Germans are going to get some stuff. We're going to get a Breslau militia, which is going to go all the way over here. Not a terribly strong unit, so not the best pool for us. Another air transport, which we are going to put into Hanover. Or, I think we're going to do Bremen. Yep. So it's an air transport, not a paratrooping air transport, mind you, but one that would be used to transfer a mountain unit. And then we get a bunch of other units. So we do get a German sub. That's going to join the other sub up here. So we still had the sub that was damaged last turn in the repair pool. We didn't repair it this turn, but we'll worry about that later. We do get German infantry, which we will put in Essen. Well, or do we want to put it further south? We might want to put it further south if we can. I'm like picking stuff up. Yeah, there we go. We'll put it there. Or maybe here, 1, 2, 3, yeah. There we go. Then we have a fighter, which we'll put here. And then we have a bomber, which we'll put, I guess, also here. So, bringing in some more air units, which are good. And that brings us into the May-June reinforcement. So, yeah, each side basically is getting some reinforcements for fighters. I'll hazard to say that the Germans actually don't have, fighter advantage, not at least until the next turn. So that's going to be sort of a bottleneck problem for them. And all the while, the Allies are building plenty of fighters too. So I think that's going to be the challenge, that the Germans really have to make their fighters count and try to get France knocked out of the war. The sooner we can do that, then we only have to contend with the British air, and we would have some advantage there, hopefully. But then we're going to be busy working our way into Spain and everywhere else, so we'll have to see how it goes. Lending resources stage, I don't think there's going to be any other sort of lending of resources at the moment besides what's already in place due to trade deals. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the initiative roll, which is a straight die roll, and the Commonwealth has it, and I think we're going to have the Commonwealth go first. Or not the Commonwealth, the Allies. So yeah, Allies want initiative. Basically, we can't really ask for a re-roll. That's going to be hurting us even worse. The Axis rolled a 1, the Allies rolled a 9, so there's not much we can do about that. So the Allies will get to go first, or they have the option to go first, and I do think there is some importance in trying to get these guys, where they really need to be. It's going to be hard to get the Moroccan infantry back into the game since I had to put it back in Morocco, I believe. So for the French, it's really all about getting some units around and restructuring the line to operate a little bit better. I guess that's the key thing we need to be thinking about here. Okay, I'm going to ponder that a bit and think about what the Allies want to do. Okay, so I think the Soviet Union's going to do a combine because, well, that's all they can do since the war with Finland is over. And they'll concentrate on moving forces over towards Bessarabia so they can threaten the claim for Bessarabia. That's going to take some time to get over there. They do need to decide, are they going to go for the Baltics yet? They might wait for another U.S. entry action to come up, so they'll hold off. The British are going to do, I think, a naval, just because they want to get a few other things sort of put together here. And then the French are possibly going to do a combined or a land. I'm going to have to think through it. Are we going to be able to get the Moroccan unit anywhere that would be of value? Well, we could certainly try. I think it's more important we see how many land moves we get with a combined. So 3 land moves and 1 attack. I'm not sure the French are going to attack at all other than to pressure the Germans a little bit. That would be the reason to do it. Nine, 17. Yeah, I think the French will do a combined, and that will work, I think, to some degree for the things we'd like to be able to do. Yeah, we'll do it that way. So combined for the Soviet Union, combined for the French, naval for the Commonwealth. So I'm going to take care of all the naval stuff very quickly, and once we start getting to the actual land activities and everything around what could be another French counterattack, we'll come back. Okay, so after the naval stuff, basically the UK put out, or the Commonwealth, however you want to look at it, put out some of the other units that had come back to port at the end of the last turn, back out to sea. So in most sea zones, the Commonwealth has a unit in the 4 box, and that's important again because that helps ensure that they have greater searchability in the given sea zone if the Germans or Italians were to come out to play, and so on. They did move a transport towards Canada because we know there's going to be a Canadian unit that will come up, that will be built here in a couple of turns, and we want to make sure that there's at least a transport over there to pick it up, so not a big deal to send them over. We do have a few extra transports. We did send the infantry that came in here, and we started sending him 1, 2, 3 into the Western Med. On the next Allied impulse, he's going to be taken to Egypt to just kind of help, because right now it's almost like a arms race to see who can have the strongest force in eastern North Africa for the inevitable clash of Italians versus the British. At some point, the Germans will probably want to send Rommel or someone down there to help the Italians out, but we'll wait to see. So far, all things considered, the Commonwealth feels pretty good. So the camera screwed up there. It's probably cut at a perfect time, I hope, to where I was quiet for a second. But the French, with their naval move for their combined, sent their transport to Morocco with the plan to bring that unit back next turn, assuming France survives this turn. So that's kind of a... we don't know how that's going to go, but we'll see what happens. And then for the French, what they ended up doing was they just have a couple of moves. They moved the one unit that was here up to fill that gap. They moved a unit from this hex back, and then they moved the armored unit from Rouen to that hex. So now there's a hex with the French armor adjacent to the German armor, and that's going to be really important because the French are currently thinking about their one attack this turn. They actually have an opportunity to do some damage here, and so what they're currently contemplating is, do they do a ground strike on the tip of the spear here? And the funny thing is, the Germans actually don't have anything in range that could intercept it. So this fighter here has a range of 2, and so, basically, well, I guess the Germans would know this too. So basically, they could fly cap here, and that would draw off some of the fighters, but they would send this guy in to do a tactical bombing of this hex and flip it. And then if they did a big attack, 4 hexes versus 1, with some French armor, that would nullify the German armor advantage and quite possibly have good results for combat. Maybe bloody, but that would be an important dig if they could make it happen. So that's what they're really trying to think about, is how can they do it. So this unit would be in range if they decided to do cap, but everything else is too far behind. So that's really what it comes down to, is would the German player fly cap, or would they be concentrating on keeping fighters in the sky for their own attacks? So here's the thing. So ground step comes up, right? Ground strike step. The French player would say to the German player, hey, it's the ground strike step. Are you doing cap anywhere? And the German player would look at the board and see, well, they've got a bomber here. They've got a fighter bomber here. That's really it from a bombing perspective. Wow, whether or not they would send that fighter, waste that fighter, is hard to tell. Like because I can't trick myself, I'm going to have to go to the dice. So I'm going to roll an Axis die. And basically, I'll say 40% chance they fly cap to the spearhead, 60% chance they don't, and they don't fly cap. So they're going to hold the fighter back in reserve, and the French player is now going to say, okay, well then I'm going to send this fighter bomber on a tactical bombing mission to the spearhead here. And the German player's going, dang, okay. So we're going to roll 2 dice, 1 for each unit in the hex. 3 or less flips the unit. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to roll weather. So this actually might change things. All right, I got to roll weather. Dang it. Okay. I rolled a 2, which is actually bad weather in May, June. Okay. All right, so never mind. Some of this I have to go back. I might have to change it. So it's storm in the Arctic. It is rain in the temperate. Fine, then storm, rain, rain. Wow. Man, okay. Well, it's a good thing that I remembered to do that, but it kind of hurt the Allies. So never mind. If it's raining, it's probably not worth the attempt. Dang, so is there something else they could have done here? Yeah, okay, so here's the problem. Because it's raining, that bomber's factors would be halved, which would round up to 2, but instead of having a 30% chance to flipping them, we'd only have a 20% chance, and now I'm kind of rethinking it. Yeah, I don't think we would do it now. It's just that much of a difference. Excuse me. Yeah, I think we hold off. Dang it. Dang it. Well, I think that's okay. I think given the circumstances of what we have, that's going to work out okay. The one thing we will do is an air rebase, and we're going to rebase this unit over here because it's going to be more useful to reach its range over here than otherwise. Dang, was there anything else that the French could really do? The other problem with the rain is that it hurts attacking. So the counterattack that I was thinking about as the French is negated by this. So it's funny that we had great weather for most of March, April, and then all of a sudden here, first impulse of May, June, the rain that was in the very end of April has carried into early May, which is really funny to me. That's really amusing. Which kind of makes it more worthwhile to have done more naval stuff maybe, but I think we're okay. I think the moves that we did were needed. So for the French, this was fine, but there really is no sense in trying to attack. It would be 8, 16, plus 12, yeah, 8, 16, 29 or 28 to 15, and we could maybe make it 30 to 15. Maybe get 2-to-1 odds on the assault, which is pretty gnarly. So because then it would be 1-to-1 odds or 3-to-2 odds rather on the chart, and that's not terribly good. That's not good. Okay, well then the French, that's all they're going to do. They're going to use the combined action to get rearranged here. And for the Soviets, who are in a similar state, they are probably not going to do a whole lot. I'll just do this. I'll just do it off camera because I don't think it's really going to matter a whole lot. Yeah, I'm just trying to look through. Yeah, okay. Okay, all right. Well, that's good there. That's the Allied impulse. Not much to get excited about, unfortunately. And it's going to slide 2 boxes, and we have a +2 to the die roll. So basically, what that means is we are guaranteed on the weather chart here. So if you look at May, June. We have a +2 because that's the result we got. A +2 is going to make it, even if we roll a 1, we'll mean fine weather. And it's fine weather pretty much the rest of the results. So the earlier that there's rain and storm in May, June, the quicker it goes away. And so there's just a brief, we had a dry spring basically. Just a little bit of rain, a little bit of storms here. It's going to be gone no matter what next impulse. So we're going to kick it over to the Axis, and they're going to have to decide what they want to do with the very poor weather that they're dealing with here. And I think I know what they're going to do. But we're going to see. We're going to see here. We'll be right back. Okay, coming back, and I'm coming back a little bit from a break, honestly, so I'm trying to refresh my memory. We have the Axis impulse, the first impulse for May, June for them, but the weather isn't great in the Arctic or the North Temperate, but the Mediterranean actually is okay. And I'm trying to think through what I want to do here. So I think as Germany, they would use this opportunity to move some units around, basically. They want to probably do some sort of land, probably a land or maybe a combined. But the main point for the Germans is going to be moving their HQs to the front to ensure that, basically what am I trying to say? The supply situation up here is resolved with the poor weather. It's going to be resolved soon anyway, but we do want to move the HQs up just to be in proper range. We also want to be making sure that we can do some rebases of our heirs, because so much of our air was left behind last turn as we surged through northeastern France. We need to kind of move those guys up so that we have basically, our air coverage is everywhere we need it to be, all along the front line in France and against the BEF, if that's what we decide we want to do. So we just got to move those guys up. That's going to be a relatively easy thing to do. But, what is kind of on my mind here is Italy. So we're about at the point where Italy needs to be in the war. Again, I've said this every video we've talked about Italy. Some people want to get Italy in very, very early just to put that pressure on the Commonwealth so that they can't take the Mediterranean for granted. We sort of let that happen, and the Commonwealth has been able to sort of garrison and project power in the Mediterranean with escorts and basically controlling the seas. The trick of this is that as the Commonwealth has sort of spread out their navy, and so this provides an opportunity for the Italians, if they wanted to leap out and strike somewhere, and with a surprise impulse, potentially do a lot of damage. But because the Commonwealth is also distributed, there's only so much damage that can be done in a single place, and then later, the Commonwealth can adjust their naval placement to contest. And the real thing that we're trying to be careful of is, the Italian Navy is only so strong. We can't afford to just, throw it around, willy-nilly. The whole purpose of our grand strategy is to ensure that the Italian Navy can come out and in cohesion with the German Navy, form a force that the British simply cannot contest around the home islands, not with concerted effort. That's the idea, right? But if we go sending the Italian Navy out to the Med and are getting beat up by, the British Navy or even the French Navy, we're going to have some problems, essentially. That's really the concern that we have, that we need to concern ourselves with. So we do need to bring them in. That much is true. And there's a great opportunity here over in the Western Med to strike and hit this transport. So the way the transport was going is it stopped in the middle, basically came to this sea zone with the idea that on the next British naval move or Commonwealth naval move, they would, then return to base, but do that to Egypt, basically, and then have a unit that they could have, another infantry unit there in Egypt that would kind of put the balance of power heavily in the Commonwealth's favor for North Africa. So that was the idea, right? Now, again, the Commonwealth is doing this because it doesn't quite realize that sea lion is happening or isn't sure, but they want, it's obvious that Egypt needs to be held, and if they want to move up into, Syria or other things, they need to be able to have plenty of power there to do a clean sweep from the east to the west part of Africa. So that's sort of the idea. They're trying to get reinforcements over there just to make sure that the Italians are bottled up. So now would be an okay time for the Italians to do like a naval move, surprise action, get their subs out somewhere, get some of their navy into this sea zone, maybe into this sea zone, kind of make it so that we put Malta out of supply because they don't really have a bomber force there at the moment, and then try to, maybe we could see about taking Malta at some point. It's not vitally important, but it would be useful. And now would be the right time to do it, right? You jump out there, you hit them hard enough that they can't do much in response, and then you either, return the ships to port, or you after on the next impulse or do something else. The only thing that concerns me is that we could declare war on the Commonwealth and only be at war at the Commonwealth, be at war with the Commonwealth as Italy, and not be at war with France. We could do that, but then the problem will be that the French could counter-declare war on us and then catch us by surprise with their navy over here. And that's the thing. If we spread ourselves out to try to hit all of the Commonwealth, then the French could come out. But it all comes down to the die rolls. So, if we, as the Italians go out and we miss our die roll and the French come out and get their search die roll and we miss ours, then we could get walloped very badly. And that is what I'm really concerned with is the punch counter punch by the French after we've hit the Commonwealth too much for us, or what? What is our real capability here? And I would have to suspect that, just looking at the overall board situation, the Commonwealth, it can't afford to take too many losses. That's going to dilute their navy. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to decide. What do the Italians do in this case? What can we do? And is it worth splitting the Italian fleet to maybe, really wipe out the British Navy and the Med and clear it out, or do we concentrate on one and sort of have a focused effort on the Egypt front? The land forces that I have there now probably wouldn't be enough to really make the biggest difference. So yeah, that's really going to be the thing. What to do here? Okay, I've decided to give it a go just because it's time to get the Italians into the war already, and they need to start getting production from the Germans. Now, they couldn't send up a lending deal at the beginning of the turn, and once we're active, we actually lose the American trade, and so I'm not sure if we lose it immediately, but basically we're going to have we're going to lose the American trade, but on the opposite side, we're going to be able to get resources from Germany, so we should be able to maintain our production. So Italy is going to declare war on the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth only, I think is how we want to do this. And so that is a U.S. entry. It is a 7, so we'll see what we get here. We rolled a 7, so I believe that the U.S. gets a U.S. entry chit. And they pulled a 2. So not what it could have been. It could have been higher than a 2, so that's not so bad from an Italian perspective. So now they're at war, and we'll deal with that, soon enough in the activity phase. Because it's 1940 and now is the best time to really do it, I think we are going to have Germany align another country. So let's see, I want to have... trying to find it on the U.S. entry chit, but I think it is just aligning a minor and it's aligning other. I don't see a line for a specific call out for U.S. entry for aligning Finland, given the current situation. So I do think Germany will align Finland while we're here, and that's going to be a 3 U.S. entry die roll potential. I rolled an 8, so there's no U.S. entry for that. So Finland is now aligned with Germany and technically at war with Britain and France. Main reason we're doing that now is that Germany gets the extra resource from Finland and can look to send extra resources to Italy in the future. So Yeah, there we go. And I think Germany and Italy can now cooperate as long as both are active. So while technically Italy is not at war with France yet, um, they can cooperate. They can do all that stuff because they are both at war with the same major power, at least one major power. So there's a whole bit here about cooperating. Um, German and Italian units cooperate provided neither is neutral, which is the case, yeah. So neither is neutral now. And we're going to get into the activities. So again, I think, Germany is probably going to do a land, or it's probably going to be a combined, because all they really need to do is move their HQs forward, potentially, and rebase their air, so that we'll worry about that. And then for the Italians, like I said, I probably need to do a naval, because there's just a whole lot more naval stuff that we need to do immediately out of the gate here, rather than, any land or whatever else. We've got a lot of stuff we need to take care of there. So yeah, I think that'll work just fine. That should work out okay. So yeah, there we go. We declared our actions, and then we'll start getting into it. The first thing, obviously, being naval air missions and naval movement. So I'll take care of some of this stuff off camera. When we come back, you'll see what the Italians have elected to do, however risky it might be. Okay, just real quick, talking about the German stuff, I was shuffling some stuff around. I did a combined as the Germans, and I moved. What I ended up doing is I moved too many planes at first, and I had to sort of backtrack, and I screwed up a little bit. So I had to put some planes further back, and probably not exactly where they were before, but so there's a little bit of mistake cheating here a little bit, because I did, some land moves with our combined to get the HQs pulled up and some stuff shuffled around, and I got 6 air missions, which I was using all of them for rebases, but I think I did like 8 instead of 6, and I had to put a couple back, and I don't know, there's some goofiness there, but I tried to fix it. So, if for some reason the Germans do better than we ever expected, maybe that's why, and my bad, but I think I corrected it, and I put some units back. I had to, basically I made sure that of the 6 of the ones I really wanted to move forward, that I did do that, and that the ones that were less important, or would have been less important, I pulled back. So we should be okay there, but I just want to point that out, that I didn't want to sit here for 20 minutes trying to figure out each and every plane, was it moved, and watching old clips of previous videos to figure out where these things were at. I tried to fix it. So there you go, guys. I'm playing myself. I don't care, but if you're really annoyed by that, I apologize. But the real star of the show this impulse are the Italians, and I've decided to go spread out, balls to the wall. Let's see what happens. So let's take a look at the med. First things first, just outside the straits, I put the 2 Italian subs. The hope is that we can roll well in and detect, and basically knock out all the convoys over here as best as possible. We retracted our... Man, stupid camera's screwing up. Alright, so the subs are out beyond the straits, and then we have a flotilla here to fight these guys potentially, but really what we want to do is catch them by surprise, hopefully, target the 0 box, and knock those guys out, basically. That's what we want to do, is take out the transport and the unit and the convoys. That would be peachy keen. Over here in the Italian coast, we put out 1 ship and our naval air, just to kind of protect our own convoys. We do have extras that can be used, so no big deal. I'm cheating a little bit just for ease. I flipped over this convoy to say 10, but one of, really it should be 2 5s with 1 with a CP used marker. I'm just saving myself effort here. If I need to move convoys, I will make sure to reflect that appropriately, but I suspect I probably won't need to. And then finally, over on the east, we have the largest contingent of the Italian Navy here and here. And again, the hope is that we can get good surprise. We could maybe knock out the Commonwealth aircraft carrier there, would be nice. And basically the intention here is if we can get, with the surprise impulse, where we have a tremendous advantage of surprise, to knock out these smaller fleets as much as possible, and then very likely just return to base, or return to port, and maybe leave, a unit in each one just to maintain supply capability. We'd have to see how the combats roll out, but the idea is, smash everything up, return to port where it's safe. If the French want to come out, then they can come out, but at least for the moment, just hitting the Commonwealth Navy hard and fast and hopefully deal as much damage as possible is what we need to do, and then that way, the Commonwealth has to react to that down the road. That's the idea. So all the naval movement's done, and now we can look at the actual naval combat, which is going to involve rolling some dice. Now, the way that this works is with surprise, is that the faction being declared war on would have to be, try to say this right, they get 0 surprise points, basically, right? So whatever surprise points come out of the search rolls for the Italians won't be negated by the opponent. So basically, no matter what, the Italians will have a surprise advantage. However, the Commonwealth still gets to roll, and the Italians have to roll. So they kind of have to hope to roll well, and that's really the key thing here. So I think what we'll do is we'll just start over here, and what we have to do is we have to flip one of these units to initiate the combat here. And we're going to roll 2 dice for each side's search roll. Red die is Commonwealth, green, black is Axis. We want to roll low, basically, is what we want to do. At least I'm pretty sure this is how this is supposed to work. Okay, so Commonwealth got a 3, and the Italians got a 2, which is good. So let's see. It's going to be Commonwealth units in the 3 box or lower. So in effect, whoops, this guy's not included, but these guys would be included, which is actually a pretty strong set of units. The Italians get theirs. Basically, the Italians are going to get 6 surprise points, and 6 surprise points. The Commonwealth will get none. So what are we going to do with 6 surprise points? Well, we have a problem in that we have the cruiser, and I think this is a battleship, and an aircraft carrier are in the combat. Because even with surprise, they were able to see something going on. Okay, so in terms of the actual searching, what we will have found is that basically, Italian units have from the 2 box up, which includes their subs. The Commonwealth rolled a 3, which means they get what's in the 3 box and up, which is only this cruiser here. Now, there is a provision in the rules that if you have a aircraft carrier with a plane that has a certain number of range value, 4 or greater, you can get a bonus to your search box. And if you have even greater range than that, you could go a +2, which means we could, conceivably have included this box here of units. But because the range of a carrier plane on a aircraft carrier, when we're just playing the classic game, the range is the air component value, so 3 for that aircraft carrier there, the Ark Royal, which means that we don't actually modify the search numbers. So when we look at that, it means that The subs encountered a cruiser at sea. Now, had the Commonwealth rolled a 5 or something and not included any units, then the Italians would have found the Commonwealth without being found themselves, and they could pick the 0 box to be targeted and would basically destroy that convoy. But instead, we sort of have a chance encounter, and we need to decide what we're going to do. So, because those are the only 2 units involved, we could look at what's feasible for combat. Now, we could make it a surface combat, in which case we would have 3 combat factors on the part of the Commonwealth against the 2 subs, which might cause the subs to be aborted. On the other hand, we could do the subs against the cruiser, and they could potentially abort the cruiser. But the surprise action, or the surprise points, which is 3, what your opponent rolled, plus where your units are at, which is the 3 box, is a 6, so 3 plus 3 is 6. Ordinarily, the Commonwealth would have a 2 plus 4, and that would be 6, so then there'd be 0 surprise points. But because we're in a surprise impulse, the Commonwealth don't get any, so that means that the Italian just nets 6. What they could do is they could decrease the cruiser's service vessel to 1 to 2, and then not be able to get any results against the Italians. And then they could shift it up 2, which could, in effect, cause a damage roll to the cruiser. Now, we could also decide to spend surprise points to make it a sub-combat, but if we did that, sub-combat really requires convoys to be present in the battle, and because we found each other, that actually won't take place. That would result in no combat, which we could opt to just, we could say, yeah, that's what we want to do, because, we don't want to risk our Italians, but because of the surprise points being the way that they are, I think we'll go ahead and let it be a surface combat. And so, yeah, we would spend 2 of our 6 surprise points to shift the cruiser group's service rating from the 3 to 5 column to the 1 to 2 column on the naval combat chart, thus meaning that they won't have any results to inflict upon the Italians. And then by comparison, their 5 altogether would then be shifted twice over to the 10 to 14 chart, which inflicts 1 damage and 2 aborts. So now we're going to need to roll a die and hope that we roll higher than a 6 for the Commonwealth ship to avoid being damaged. So we rolled a 10, so it ends up being that this guy isn't damaged, but he is aborted. And so we will abort him, I guess, to Gibraltar. And that is the end of that combat round. Now, that would basically mean that, we didn't damage the cruiser. We almost did. Had that die roll gone a little bit differently, but in effect, the subs chased off the cruiser, it went back to port, and it is now flipped, as you can see, which means we've sort of reduced the Commonwealth presence there for the rest of the turn. Now, here's the question that the Italians need to decide. Because there are still units there from the Italian side, and of course this guy would be flipped for searching, but that's for initiating combat, but we'll hold off on that for a second. Now we have to decide, do we want to try again? Well, we've just forced out the Commonwealth's high patrolling unit. So if we were to roll again, now the Commonwealth only has a 20% chance of including any of their combat vessels, and the Italians still have surprise. This is still the surprise round, so they could still make use of this. So do we do it? There's risk here, right? If we roll very poorly, or the Commonwealth rolls very well, we might end up forced into an air-to-sea combat with that aircraft carrier, and that aircraft carrier could smack up our subs a good bit. I'd rather that not happen. So I need to think through. Do we want to chance it again? We haven't taken any hits, so it might be worth it. So I need to think through it. Okay, so yeah, I think we're gonna try again. So here's the die roll, and okay, that's much better. So here's what we got. We rolled a 6 and a 2. So again, the Commonwealth is able to go, and the man, this is kind of interesting. So yeah, it's definitely sub-combat if we want it to be, because we're now looking at 9 surprise points, 3 for where our subs are as the Italians, plus the 6th of the Commonwealth rolled. And we got to include our subs with our die roll of 2 to begin with. So 9 surprise points, and we do have a number of neat little targets we could look at doing here. So if we chose to include, like, we could include only the 0 box and just very likely just destroy those convoys right away. Or we could potentially include maybe the 1 box and try to take out that battleship, which might be valuable. Let's see, how would that go? We could do, let's see, 1 ASW couldn't damage the subs, and then they could do 4, and they could cause sinking and damage, and oh yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. And alternatively, then they could also try to target the aircraft carrier somehow. Let's see. Yeah, this is kind of tough. What do we want to do? I'm going to need to think on this. This is a good opportunity. Because naval combat is so deterministic, like once the search die rolls have come up, there's only so many choices you really have to make. But it is pretty straightforward, like procedurally. But again, it's the decision now. It's not, am I attacking and then we're going to roll and see what happens. We're rolling and then we're going to decide how much we want to have happen. Because some of this is like, yeah, I want to destroy this British convoy right here, no problem, right? It would be easy. But if I can snipe some of these other Commonwealth ships, I mean, why the heck not, right? If we have this much surprise, we could really do some damage and really thin out the Royal Navy. And of course, that's a key part of our overall strategy. So I need to think through this a bit more. Okay, and looking at the situation, so here's how it works out. If we wanted to include other units here, we basically, for it to be valuable, we'd have to let it be a surface combat, which is, we could do, but then our surprise points would be used up, likely just decreasing damage to our subs and then maybe aborting some units. So I think in this case, because we're fortunate enough just to get a clean strike on the convoys, what we'll do is we'll spend all of our surprise point. We'll say that it is a sub-combat. We can just elect to do that because we have subs and we have found the enemy and they haven't found us. And then we're going to spend all of our surprise points increasing our sub-combat ability so that we get an X result, a guaranteed X result, and I should point this out because we've been doing it. I haven't really talked to it much. Whenever you inflict a loss on a naval unit, you roll a die and compare it to the top right value, which is a 10 for a convoy. That's sort of like its armor class in old school D&D. You basically are trying to roll above that number to avoid the result and get the next result better. So a sink, an X result, becomes a damaged result if you can roll well. But because convoys have a 10 value, they suffer whatever result is inflicted. Because if you roll a 10, which is the highest number you can roll in a die, you still suffer that result. So you have to roll higher than the number. I would have preferred it if they made it a little different than that to be clear with congruent with some of the other rolls, but not a big deal. So basically, we're forcing it where this convoy is destroyed. And so now we have very critically damage the Commonwealth supply line. Now they do have extra convoys that they can establish, or they can send out here to reestablish it. But again, just causing that depletion of the reserves is important. And now comes the question: do the now that these ships out here aren't defending anything anymore, right? Do they want to abort the Commonwealth ships? Do they want to abort and go home, or do the Italians want to abort and go home? They did their job. Well, I think everybody at the table knows that yes, the Commonwealth has convoys in reserve, so we want to maintain the threat here and not make it easy for them to send convoys back out here. So I think we're going to stay, but that's probably going to require another die roll. So let me figure out, I'm going to look at these numbers again and see if there's anything that we can do. It might be this, that would be the target, but it comes down to the die rolls. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and try again, maybe one more time as the Italians, unless we get really lucky here. Because we're doing so well. We've already destroyed, we destroyed a convoy. We forced another unit to abort. So, I mean, we're doing well, so we'll give it another try. Let's see, what did we get? Okay. Well, that's about the best result that I could have ever conceived of. So you saw it here, a 1 and a 9. So the Italians have excellent positioning here versus the terrible positioning of the Commonwealth. Wow. All right, so how does this work out? So 9 is what the die roll is for the Allies, plus 3 for the Italians is 12 surprise points. And then, it doesn't matter what sea zone I choose to include to attack the Commonwealth, which would, just a reminder, if I had picked the 2 box, that would lower the number of surprise points I would actually have as the Italians, because, again, the opponent's surprise is the highest numbered box of units they have that are involved, plus the 1 die roll for the Italians. But again, the surprise nets us a huge amount. So what do we want to do with our huge amount of surprise points? The Commonwealth would be caught off guard. And if we included everybody here, I wonder what it would come out to be. If we included everybody, we'd have to spend 4 to make it a surface combat. So that would take 4 off the 12. We'd then have 8. The Commonwealth would have 11 combat factors. And so we could spend 6 of our 8, meaning they would get nothing. And then we could increase our own by 1 and potentially cause a few damages. Alternatively, we could just pick here and then do 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and we could cause damages. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think I'm less worried about the battle. I mean, the battleship's scary, but I kind of want to take care of the aircraft carrier if I can. Yeah, that's the thing. I think we do want to try it. Let me just make sure I can do this the way that I want. So let's say we include the units here, right? The Commonwealth has 5 combat factors, and we just spend 2 surprise points to make it shift down 1, so the Italians aren't affected at all. So then we would have 6 surprise points left over. We would spend 2 per column to increase from our 5. So we'd go 1, 2, 3. and we'd be inflicting 2 damages and 3 aborts. And so the owner is going to select which ones they go to. The alternative, I guess, would be... See, if we were playing with screening, this would work out a little bit differently, where we would alternate who's taking the losses, but here, the Commonwealth can destroy this cruiser to protect the aircraft carrier. The alternative would be if we spent surprise points to specify a target. But I'm not sure we want to do that. See, we spent 2 to reduce, we'd have 6 left over. What we could do is cause a 1 damage result and use surprise points to pick the recipient. We would pick the aircraft carrier here. That might be the thing to do. Thing we could do. Yeah, we'll do that. So we're going to reduce the Commonwealth response to nothing. We're going to spend points to shift. We're going to spend 2 points to shift our column to the right to the 6 to 9 surface table, and we'll spend 3 points. Basically, we'll have 1 left over unused. We'll use to select our target, and we're going to select. This is the first target, so it has to roll a die for surviving a damage roll, and it failed. And so this guy, Arc Royal, is damaged. There are damage counters I could use to show this, but we'll just move it down here. And then there is an abort as well, and would go to this unit. And or I guess the Commonwealth could apply it here as well. And yeah, okay, so the Arc Royal is damaged and aborted, and it goes into a repair pool. Well, that was interesting. Okay, so we've damaged aircraft carrier. We're removing it from the board. That's pretty important. Do we go again? I don't know if we go again. Does the Commonwealth pull back? I don't think they want to pull back yet. If they pull back, they're not going to be able to put convoys back out here without being damaged. I don't know. This video's getting long. Okay, so I think we're going to try again, and just to explain why this is taking so long. The way it works is, like, if both sides miss each other and fail to search, then there's no combat and you have to move on. But as long as there was a combat, somebody finding somebody, then you get to the end and the sides can pick. Do they go home or do they stick around? And if folks stick around and there's still enemy ships here, and you have to abort everything at that point or stick around entirely, if you stick around, then you can roll again, and you can keep going until finally all the ships have been removed. And you can think of this as like, this is really like a week or more's worth of naval combat going on, a very protracted battle in the seas, where the subs, in a sort of wolf pack fashion, I guess, are just biting off pieces of the British Navy that are patrolling the waters. So we'll give it another roll here and see what we get. Okay, so I got a 6 and a 4, which means we're done. So we would have gotten, if we rolled just one more lower, we'd have been in good shape, but that's all that we got. So I think we did good. Again, I'm flipping this unit over to show we had to flip it to search, so I'm flipping it back now that combats are over. I think that went very reasonably well for the Italians. That bit the British much harder, and we got very lucky with our die rolls. I think I rolled like 2 2s in a roll and then a 3 or whatever it was. That's pretty gnarly. That's pretty rough. yeah, think about that. So we knocked out one convoy. Now we do have 10 British convoys in reserve in the UK, so the British should be able to replace that hole in the pipeline relatively easily. But we still have this combat and this combat to take care of, and it could very well see the rest of these convoys destroyed, and possibly beyond the Commonwealth's immediate ability to restore. Now they do have some reserve convoys in the transfer box way out here. So technically, I guess, if we destroyed every convoy in the Mediterranean that's left, we actually could probably restore all of them, but then the Commonwealth would be completely out of reserves, putting them in a very tough situation. They'd have to spend some production building more convoys. That's almost a given now anyway, that they kind of need to do that. So there we go. So now we'll start looking at this combat. Now it's going to be a little more interesting. It's a little more tight because, you know, wherever the Italians are here, the Commonwealth is also at. So I'm going to take a break to get a drink of water, and then we'll come back and we'll start looking at this combat. All right, so here we are in the Mediterranean, Western Med, for this. Ideally, if the Italians can knock out the convoy and the transport all in one blow, that would be awesome. So they're going to flip a unit to initiate search, and we're going to roll dice and see what happens. Ooh! So we got a 1 and a 7. So a 1, basically everyone that the Italians want to include are included. That's awesome. So we have 4 plus 7 is 11 surprise points. So what do we want to do with that? We could do a lot, actually. We could choose to include everybody. And let's see what that would look like. Spend 4 to bring them to 0. And then, let's see, we have 8, 11, 1, 2, 3 against. Well, I think what we want to do is, oh man, see, this is tough. I kind of want to, I want to do as much damage as I possibly can this round, since we've got such a great amount of force here. Oh man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. So if we did surface combat and made it, and we went all the way, we spent all our surprise points to shift to the right and targeted the 0 box, we would sink, we would cause 2 sink results. And I think that's probably what we want to do. So we'll roll the convoy, yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll spend all of our surprise points bumping up our power. So the Italians would have 11 factors of combat, and then we would spend for 5 shifts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, against 2 enemy ships is a 2 sink result. And so, yeah, the convoys are automatically blown out. That's going to happen no matter what, basically. Or, well, no, I guess not. This is the way we have to do it. So the owner is going to say, no, I'm going to put the first sink on the transport, maybe. Or is the transport more important? No, we'll do it this way. The convoys are destroyed. And not damaged, mind you, but destroyed. And then we're going to have to roll for the transport, and basically a 9 or 10 is going to be needed to avoid, or, well, let me think about this for a second. Yeah, a 9 or a 10 is going to be needed, and we rolled a 3, and so I'm reasonably confident that the transport and the infantry are destroyed. I'm reasonably confident. Let me see here. check the rolls on this. I'm pretty sure that's the case, though. Yeah, I'm going to have to double check the rules, but I believe that to be the case. That the transport and the infantry corps that was on board are destroyed here. Yeah, let me just go double check that. I think that's the case. I don't think they go on like the damage pool or the turn track. I think they're just straight up destroyed. Okay, yeah. So it is destroyed, and because it's not in the home country, that's just a loss for the Commonwealth. Now, part of me was questioning, you know. I don't know. It's like I stuck my chin out there by having that transport there, and he was getting time to invade. In hindsight, it was like, I don't know. I didn't want it to take 2 more turns to get down there because we knew the Italian declaration war was going to happen. Maybe this was a freebie almost for the Italians, but I'll say the Italians have been rolling hot like crazy with this roll for sure. So now, is the Commonwealth going to abort? I don't think so, because they need to reestablish the convoy, which they can do on their next impulse. So we'll go to the rolls again, and that's even worse. That's a 3 to 10, which means that once again I will say this is extraordinary. Italy, good job. You're probably going to be good for nothing else but naval stuff in this game, but good job. So we've got these guys, which again is 11 combat factors against, it depends, I guess, but basically we're going to have 14 surprise points. That's a lot. So let's see. We could spend 4 to bring them down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 against 2 ships. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So we're going to spend 4 surprise points shifting the Commonwealth down. We're going to include everybody here, shifting them down off the map, or down to the bottom of the naval combat chart, so that they can only do a possible abort to us. And then we're going to pump ours up by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be 10. We used 4 to shift. Yeah, so that would actually be, and there's only 2 ships, so that's 2 sinks again. So the first one we'll do here. This one actually saves and is only damaged. And so I think we can apply the other sink result to this guy, which is what we'll probably do. At least I think that's how this can work. And failed. So this guy definitely sinks and is destroyed. Historically was sank in November 41. So this guy goes off the board, and basically we're going to roll. Let's see, we'll roll to abort the flipped unit, and we'll see. Okay, so he's going to abort. So he'll abort to that port there off to the side. It doesn't really matter where I put him, I guess. And then, or I guess I could send them all the way back, couldn't I? And then, yeah, this ship is destroyed for the Commonwealth. Jeez. Okay, so then, is there anything left to do? Well, I'll ponder this for a second. I think we're just going to have this guy abort. And that puts us in great shape there. Okay, so here we are in the Eastern Med. Now, so far the Italians have done very well. The subs operated well off Cape St. Vincent, though they didn't clear the sea zone. We did clear the Western Med of the Allies, which kind of opens up the possibility of doing maybe some sort of naval invasion of Algeria, and that would enable us to pick up some air basing in North Africa and the west side of the Med, which would be cool. But we still got this battle here left to go. We're not done with the naval stuff in this impulse, and the Germans still have to go, which may end up being another video since these are taking so long. But anyway, here we go. So same situation, surprise, we're going to roll. The Commonwealth is a bit more spread out here, which would enable the Italians to pick them off piecemeal potentially, but because of the presence of the aircraft carrier, we're stuck in another situation where rolling well for surprise, we're really hoping the Commonwealth rolls high so that we can use surprise to negate any air advantage. So we're going to give it a roll. We're going to see what happens. And interesting. So we rolled a 4 and a 5. So that's the Italian set here in the 4-box, not their battleship, which is the real awesome ship. Instead, we only get these guys. But the Commonwealth failed, and so if we want to, we can kind of target other boxes and ensure victory, basically. So that would give us, we're in the 4-box, plus 5 is 9 surprise points. We could target the convoy and maybe this ship in the 4-box that we eliminate the Commonwealth's ability to react. That's probably the way we want to do this. So let's see, what do we even have here? Oh, and I should have flipped one of these guys to search, but that's neither here nor there. So let's see, that's 8, 14 combat factors for the Italians here. 14 against, what, 2 ships? Would be a damage and some aborts, and they would have, let's see, 3 factors against 4 ships, which would be some aborts. Well, with 9 points, I think what we probably want to do is we're going to spend 2 to shift them down a box to the 1 to 2, and then they'll only be able to get an abort on us, if anything, and then we'll take ours, which again is at, what, 14? Yeah, 14. We would still have 3 shifts, go 1, 2, 3, and that would give us a sink and a damage, and I think that's just as well. So for the sink, I think the Commonwealth is going to opt for this guy, and we're going to roll the die for him. And he actually succeeds in only being damaged, so that's something to consider. And then for the damage itself, we're going to have the convoys damaged, and they're going to get knocked out. Or actually, no, I guess, interesting. So I think we could apply, I'll just make sure I'm reading this right. Let's say 1, 2, 3 against 2 ships. So yeah, we could have the other damage here, and I think we'll go ahead and do that. It fails, so this ship is destroyed, but we managed to avoid the convoys getting hit, I guess. So this is an instance of the Italians getting greedy. The ship was able to keep the convoys safe, and then we'll roll for, we'll say, this guy for the abort. And he succeeds in avoiding abort. So, just like that, we've gained some greater supremacy at sea. Now the question is, do we want to go again? I don't think the Commonwealth's ready to give up yet. I don't think they're going to abort. So I think it is worth rolling again. We'll see what we get. So for this one, we did get a 2 for the Italians and an 8 for the Commonwealth. I'm rolling hot, but if this was a land combat, I'd be rolling not as well, I guess. So this is almost embarrassing. So again, now everything's included, and we get, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 surprise points. What do we want to do here, guys? Do we want to... Is now a good time to include, all of these guys and knock out an aircraft carrier? Do we eliminate the convoy? It almost seems a waste to not do something like that. Let's see. If we did these again, it would be 3 ships. We would have 22 combat factors, I think. 14 plus 8, yeah, 22. Against 3 ships would be a sink, a damage, and an abort. And we could bump that up like crazy. So yeah, we'd spend 4 surprise points moving the Commonwealth off the board. Or we would spend 4 surprise points to make this a surface combat. Then we'd spend another 4 points to take the Commonwealth off the board of hurting the Italians. And then we'd have 4 left over. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we would be doing, wow, 2 sinks, a damage, and 2 aborts. So let's do that. So the first sink, the Commonwealth would put the Kent first, and they actually succeed in only being damaged. The next sink they would do here as well. And it's destroyed, basically, so the Kent is gone. Then we'd have a damaged here, and let's see what we get. Nope, it fails, so the Glorious is damaged. And we could put a damage marker on there, but I'm just going to hold it there. And then the aborts, so we'll put an abort here, and it got a half abort, and then the final abort result, it failed. So this guy aborts and goes into the repair pool. So that's 2 aircraft carriers now in the repair pool. And now the question is, do the Commonwealth get the heck out of Dodge? Because they don't have the capability to contest what's going on. I don't know. I feel like they might have to retreat and try to get out of here. They'll be in supply in Egypt because the supply can be traced around Africa because we're playing with the rules that we're playing with. But yeah, it's pretty gnarly. I think we will abort. Well, dang it. All right, I got to think about this. Okay, so here's what I think. I think I'm gonna keep here for one more roll, and we'll see what happens. And we both miss. Okay, there you go. A 9 and a 10. So yeah, for sure, both missed. Okay, so there we go. That's it. And I need to make sure that one of these guys is flipped for the search. So yeah, the Warspit, I forget how that's pronounced officially, will stay out there trying to help protect the Eastern Med, but things have been pretty gnarly from that perspective, and so while we can't do any more damage there, we've pretty much done up and cleaned out the allies here. So that's a pretty dramatic situation. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can appreciate. Like, there you go. The Italians have come in force, and they've certainly not messed around and have hit pretty hard. Now, I think, the challenge will be, how do we capitalize on this? Because the Commonwealth does have some reserve ships that it can bring up. It can put force back into the Med. Its main fleet, could sacrifice some strength. But the important thing with this move with the Italians is that by doing all of this, by destroying or forcing back the Commonwealth ships, we're now diluting the overall combat strength of the Commonwealth. If they want to keep power in the Med, they've got to siphon off power from the North Sea Fleet, and that gives the Germans more leeway. So this was a pretty useful thing, and we rolled extraordinarily well as the Italians. Very, very well. I'm going to have to watch out for this die because it rolled low a lot. We'll have to see how it goes when the Italians roll for combat down the road, land combat, but very strong opening, and the Allies are going to have to figure out, how do they want to respond in kind, what can they do to contest it, and it may mean that the French fleet comes out to fight and to clear the Western Med. It's very likely that's going to need to occur. So yeah, the British lost several naval vessels, has damaged aircraft carriers. Overall, a tough situation to look at. I'm going to do a time check here for the video, and it's very possible that because of all this explanation and all this crazy stuff going on, we may need to stop this video here. So let me go take care of that. Okay, yeah, we are running up on an hour and a half here in this video. I apologize for the length, guys, and honestly, sorry for all the cuts in the video and having to reference the rules a lot. I'll say for my part, in terms of World in Flames, I am most familiar with surface combat, surface versus surface vessels. Things with aircraft carriers and accounting for them and ensuring you're avoiding naval air combat, and dealing with subs and how subs can come into play for sub combat. I'm a little less familiar with because I've mostly played either as Germany and didn't do a whole lot of sub activity, or I've played like the Soviet Union, who's not doing any naval stuff. So for me, I'm a little rusty, and because I'm not playing with any options either, I'm having to navigate some of the clauses. So thank you for bearing with me through some of that. I'll say again that the Italians have really shown themselves to do quite well, honestly, when it comes to the surprise round. But now that the surprise round or surprise impulse is passed, they're going to have to fight a little bit harder, and they are going to be running some risks now that they've come out to play. They've done very well against the Commonwealth, but they can't really sustain long-term operations for a while. But we need to, we'll probably capitalize this on this as much as possible as the Italians to be striking at Egypt or striking in North Africa, and basically creating a very difficult situation in the southern part of the map, I guess, is their territory, to be contested by the Allies there. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I think I'm going to end up naming this video something a little different than Case Yellow, because this video was almost entirely Mediterranean naval stuff. So maybe we'll name it appropriately, and we'll come back for the next segment of Case Yellow in the next video, because we're having to stop the video in the middle of an impulse. So we've done naval combat. We still have ground strikes that we could do, and everything else up here in the north. Though the weather is so bad, we probably won't do that. Germany had taken a combined, but didn't really do much in the way of naval stuff, mostly so that we can move all of our air up, or a lot of our air up, I should say. So, yeah, there you go, guys. Appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next one.